This video, I'm going to show you how to go beyond the spiritual beliefs when it comes to money, understanding why so many spiritual people are experiencing lack in their lives, show you how to push through those barriers so that you can start to be abundant, which is who you really are. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to go beyond the label and sometimes the trap we put ourselves in of being spiritual. Sometimes when we talk about being spiritual or we identify as a spiritual person, what we may end up doing is we may end up creating limitations for ourselves because we give certain meanings to that of what money means. We give certain meanings in our life that then separate ourselves from the natural abundance that's already available to us. Now understand that in reality, our beliefs create our reality. And when we go through a spiritual awakening, I would say that's one of the most profound changes you'll ever go through, because you change your belief about who you are as a soul. You then realize, well, I'm not just this ego construct. I'm not just who I thought I was. I'm a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And with that awareness, you realize that life is so much more magical. There's so much more to appreciate in life. However, a lot of times what happens is when that huge rush of energy comes and you start to realize all these epiphanies about reality, sometimes what happens is then you look to the old way of being. You may look to the millions or billions of other people on the planet that are desperately chasing money, and you might start to relate to it in a new way. I know when I went through my awakening, that was one thing that happened. I started to see money in a completely new way. I started to see that money was I had these beliefs, then I started to develop that money is a form of control, that money is negative, and that if you do have money, you're a materialistic person. And I started to develop these beliefs, and slowly as I had those beliefs, I then started to create less and less abundance in my life. When in actuality, I was creating more and more lack in my life because I was believing more that made me a righteous person, and that made me somebody that was more worthy of the spiritual information I was coming into. And it was something that then started to create a lot of resistance in my life. Now, the reason I say this is because I also am making this video because there are so many gifted spiritual people out there that have this aversion to charging for their services. They feel like they may not be worthy, or they feel like because it's a spiritual gift, it's on this higher pedestal, and therefore they shouldn't be doing it for a living. And it comes from and stems from this belief of money being bad and having these mixed connotations and meanings as to what money is. Now understand, our beliefs create our reality, and if we believe and give the meaning to money that money is bad, or that money isn't a viable source of abundance, that we just need to be abundant in energy and really good vegan food and all, if that's what we define abundance as, and that's what we will get. However, we do live in a reality right now where we have money as the barter system that we use to exchange energy. When you make this shift and you realize that all money is an exchange of energy, that's when things really begin to change. Because then you could start to ask yourself, what energy can I give in exchange for abundance so that I can have more resources to live a higher quality of life so that I can then help other people? You see, so this video is going to be a lot of me reframing some of these mixed connotations and meanings you may have been giving to money. When I went through my spiritual awakening in 2012, I started to become aware of the system and how things are controlled. And when I realized that money isn't backed by gold, when I realized that a lot of the intention behind some of the ways things are happening in the world, and I became aware of it, I started to become very resistant to money. I started to say that I didn't really want, I literally was like, what's the point? What's the point of being abundant? I started to just meditate. I actually went through a period where I quit my job on a whim. I said, screw it, don't want to have no 9 to 5 job anymore. I worked at Nordstrom's in women's shoes. And I said, money doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to meditate all day. That's what I did. I did that for about 6 months. I just meditated all day. I was lucky because I lived with my mom and my brother and my sister, and I just meditated all day. And I didn't really care about money. And I remember I was really resistant to even getting like going back into the 3D world and getting a job, because I felt so good understanding the spiritual side of things, and I felt so good just being all day, listening to music and be all day. That's all I really wanted to do. And then I remember I eventually had a reading from someone that does something called kinesiology. It's like muscle testing. And they were so accurate with all of these things. They were able to pick up on some energy blockages that I got from one of my relationships prior to, this is back in 2012, so one of my prior relationships. And everything they said was so on point. And then I remember asking them, like, am I supposed to get a job? Like, does my spirit want me to get a job? And I remember this lady was like a 70-something-year-old lady. She was really good at what she did. And she was like, yes, the answer is yes. And I was like, because you can calibrate yes or no answers. And I was like, oh, no, okay, can you do that one again? And she was like, yeah, the answer's still yes. And I was like, maybe she was right about all this other stuff, but this thing she's wrong about. I'm not supposed to get a 9-to-5 job. I'm just supposed to meditate and help the collective consciousness. I'm supposed to channel in higher vibrational energy and help people. And I dealt with resistance for a couple months because I was so resistant to getting a job. I was so resistant to going back into the 3D world. But then now I realized that I actually needed that for grounding, because when I went through the spiritual awakening, I was so, I went from this to this so fast. I see why a lot of people may have thought that, like, what the hell happened to Aaron? You know what I mean? Because I went from wanting to party and have fun to meditating and doing mantras and talking about spirituality all the time and being interested in metaphysics. And after that, everything changed. But along with that, what changed was there was a belief in money, that money is bad, or that if you're a spiritual person, then you shouldn't be charging for your gifts. You shouldn't be charging because it's on a higher pedestal, and you have these divine gifts, and therefore charging for it would be too 3D type style. It just doesn't align with it. You have this high vibrational desire and intention, but that's separate somehow. However, this is what I've realized up until this point. Now, let me just kind of put this into perspective for you. Now, first off, everything is energy. Money is energy. Yes, of course, if you become too identified with money, then there are negative consequences to that. There's an attachment to it. There's a neediness, a yearning, a negative vibration that's put onto it. Just like if you were to eat too much ice cream, it would be something that had a negative effect on your body. Like, anything in moderation is something that can be manageable. However, when it comes to money, if you have a neediness, a desperate desire, then of course that's coming from an unhealthy place. The question is not, is something good or bad? It's, what is the energy that you're bringing forth with this? What is the energy you are applying to it? What is the quality of thought that you have about it? Now think of like this. This is the reason I say it, because I see so many gifted spiritual people that block themselves from abundance because they have a negative definition of money. Now, when you're talking about charging for your gifts, think about this one idea. And this was a game changer for me understanding this. We look at Pepsi. We look at Coke. We look at some of these brands, McDonald's. We look at some of these brands and we see and understand, first off, everything is an exchange of energy. But what they're doing is they're putting out, from certain people's perspectives, a level of value. People get some type of perceived value from Coca-Cola or Pepsi or McDonald's. Maybe that value is very short-lived, and maybe there's very negative side effects of it if you do it long-term. However, people will look at people that you look at what Pepsi and Coke and all of these, putting out corn syrup and things that are very acidic, things that down the road of people doing every single day, and some people drink Pepsi or Coke or McDonald's and eat it every single day, has a very negative side effect years down the road. Nobody questions them whatsoever. But if you have somebody that has a spiritual gift, or is adding value, maybe something that's facilitating healing for other people, maybe a Reiki practitioner, maybe somebody that has amazing art, for some reason, we put that on a higher pedestal, and we say, well, this is different. You can't exchange energy. Even though this information may be extraordinarily valuable to people, even though it may change people's lives, it's on a higher pedestal, and no, because you want to be abundant with those spiritual gifts. However, I'm not going to question McDonald's. I'm not going to question Coca-Cola or Pepsi, because that's the way the world works. But we like to separate these two things. The key to this is understanding that this is all energy regardless. So you, with your spiritual gifts, with the amazing abilities you have, I believe that right now on the planet, there's a desperate need for that, of these spiritual gifts to be coming out, for people to be practicing Reiki, for people to be practicing their different healing modalities. And it's needed right now because there's a certain amount of pain in the world, and there's a certain amount of people that want help, that need help. And I think that as time goes on, it's only going to increase, where there's more and more people that want that kind of help and that want to go through that transformation. However, you can't help anybody if you got to go to your 9-to-5 job and you are constantly busy in the rat race. So when we're talking about spiritual people and we're talking about money beliefs, understand that your purpose on this planet may be to express your spiritual gifts. But because you put it in a separate category, or because you have a 9-to-5 job that you have to put like 70% of your attention, you may not actually have the energy to put in that of adding value to other people. You see, this is the game changer right here. Understand that you don't have to put yourself in the same category as Pepsi and all these other things. Realize you have a divine gift or a spiritual gift that does add value, but see money as something that is an exchange of value. That's it. Of course, there's going to be a certain perspective that say, well, you could become too needy, too dependent. The money could change you somehow. But if you have awareness, then that won't happen. It's only a belief that you're going to go into the complete unconsciousness, the complete autopilot mind, or start to become like some of the people that really desperately chase money and do bad things with it. But that's just social conditioning anyways. But understand that your purpose on this planet is to help other people to wake up, or it's to help other people to heal, or it's to help other people with delivering information. And you believing that you can't exchange it for energy, you can't have that as a viable exchange method of being money, is keeping you maybe in a level of limitation. Maybe it means that you still have to work a 9-to-5 job that you hate, which means that your energy isn't then potent enough to where then you could add more value to people. You see, this is the game changer. It's understanding that as a spiritual person, one of the most spiritual things you can do is learn how to output and how to manage and have boundaries for your own energy to help as many people as possible. That could be one of the main purposes of your spiritual gift. But if you have blockages about that of money, then what will happen is you'll keep yourself from experiencing that. You'll tell yourself a story that you have to have a 9-to-5 job. You'll tell yourself, it's still a story, by the way. If you say, oh, I'm spiritual, I can't have an abundance of money because then it's going to put me into a different category, or people are going to judge or think I'm this way, or I'm going to become negative or evil. That's a story. It's a story you're telling yourself. There are plenty of people that are highly spiritual people but are still extraordinarily abundant. And here's the way that spiritual people that are very abundant, here's the way they think about money. Money is a viable way of exchange. The more abundance that I have, the more energy I have, the more I can create more energy to then give to more people. The more resources I can create. I was listening to a talk. There's a guy named Louis Howes. He's really cool. He has a podcast, and his buddy Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty's this guy. You may have seen him on YouTube or on Facebook. He's like really well known on Facebook. But he was like a spiritual monk, and now he's like just a spiritual person. He's a spiritual person now that shares ideas, and he has a massive following. And Louis Howes said, I was talking to Jay one day, and I was telling him. And he had a big aversion to charging or to like really focusing on abundance because he just wanted to get the message out into the world. But then what Louis told him was like, hey, if you have more resources, if you have more abundance, you can then build a team, and then you can then impact way more people. If you have a team of people, if you have more resources, you can then have more of that message impact more people. And for him, that switched his money mindset. That switched his beliefs, because then he said, wait, this isn't about the ego. This isn't about like, what can I give to myself? This is about, I can build a team and have more resources to help more people. So if you're a spiritual person, you're viewing it as the limitations, or you view it as selfish if you had money, realize that one of the most selfish things you can do is believe that it's bad to have abundance. Because it's all about you and your beliefs about money, and it's all about you and how you need to be in some 9-to-5 job. And when you really are abundant and you see that you are meant to be extraordinarily abundant, then you can really give to other people. You see, that's a game changer for me as well, because I'm getting ready to move into a stage of my life when I do live events, when I build a team of people that can help me to run these live events. And if I was like, well, I can't charge for this kind of information that I'm sharing, I can't have, programs that help transform people's lives. If I had that belief, then I would still be at my 9 to 5 job, and guess what? I wouldn't have the energy to be making daily videos on YouTube. I'd be too busy working a 9 to 5 job. Or I would be completely stressed out of my mind, and my energy wouldn't be as fluid as it is in this flow state of these videos. So one of the most spiritual things that you can possibly do is learn how to exchange the energy of your gifts and how you can then give it to the world in exchange for that abundance. Abundance does not always mean that it has to be money, by the way. People could give you opportunities. I recently was invited to a high-level mastermind, which I found was very interesting. It was, as I've changed my beliefs about money, some pretty cool things have happened. I used to work at Barney's New York in women's shoes. And when I was there, one time I helped Jack Canfield, who, if you guys don't know, he's teaches a lot of law of attraction content. He's an older guy. He's been doing it a long time. And he also is the authors of the publisher of the Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul books. And anyways, I helped him with shoes years ago. And when I helped him with shoes, I remember telling him, this is before I was even on YouTube, I said, one day I'm going to do what you do. And I knew I sounded like one of those people who's like, hey, one day I'm going to be a speaker just like you. And I'm sure he gets told that a lot or something. I said, one day I'm going to do what you do. He's like, oh, that's cool. He was really nice. He gave me his card. It said Jack Canfield. It said his company and stuff. I still have the card. I've saved it. I have it in storage. And I was like, I'm going to do what you do. And he said, oh, that's really cool. I train people, blah, blah, blah. And that was the end of that. Well, now, just within the last week or two, I got invited to his high-level mastermind. And he has some high-level private mastermind thing that I got invited to. And I just found it very interesting that now that I've changed my beliefs, I've changed the way that I saw myself as well, it's kind of come full circle, because I told him that years ago, and now I'm actually have the ability to go to a high-level mastermind with somebody like that. So it's very interesting to me how these things work, but you have to change your beliefs about money. You have to change your beliefs about your gifts and what you put out. He would not know who I am if I were just still working that 9 to 5 job and I wasn't able to actually put all my energy into this basket of helping spread this energy. You see? Now the last thing I want to talk about real quick is become aware of your self-image, the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as only able to make $50K a year, then you will experience a reality that is equal to that. It's about going beyond. If you see yourself as making $100K per year, then you will only experience a reality to that. Your self-image is a cybernetic mechanism, which means that however you see yourself, you're going to think of thoughts that are equal to that, feelings that are equal to that, and actions, you're going to take action that's equal to that. You must change the subconscious self-image you have. And when you do that, that's when your life begins to change in a very powerful way. So become aware of what that self-image is. That's 90% of the process. When you then realize that it's just been on autopilot, you can then start to have these reference experiences that change that. For me, I made a video every single day, and that changed my self-image. Started to see myself as a content creator, somebody that puts out content. So see how you could change your self-image as well. So just to summarize this whole video, understand that one of the most spiritual things that you can possibly do is to find out how you can express your spiritual gifts with the world. Understand that there are companies like Coca-Cola, that are Pepsi, that are McDonald's, companies that by eating and consuming their products literally kills you over time. You don't question them though. That's just what they do. You don't question how they make money. It just is what it is. But if there's some spiritual gifts you have, if you're a Reiki practitioner, a healer, you think for some reason that's on a pedestal, that should be in a completely separate category, and therefore you hold yourself back from experiencing the abundance. Everything is energy, and when you start to put out the energy and you start to see it as how can you put out more energy, and abundance is a means of putting out more energy, you will then start to be even more abundant. And that is one of the most selfless things you can do, because the more people you help, the better. So could you do me a favor? If this resonates with you, could you smash that like button? If this helped you just change one of your limiting beliefs about money, let me know what you think about it. As well, I have something that you can go to calibrate your vibration in general. Realize the more you raise your vibration, the more you transform your life. It's called whatsmyvibration.com. You can fill out a quick survey that calibrates your thought processes and tells you what vibration you are at in the form of an archetype. Plus, I will be sending you, I'll send you 2 meditations to getting to the next level, plus send you emails as to to how to get to the next archetype level of consciousness. So that's whatsmyvibration.com. Other than that, I hope you like this video, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Peace, much love, and namaste.